The Episcopal Church has a long and active history, working directly with immigrants and refugees throughout our many diverse communities, especially through the work of Episcopal Migration Ministries, which formerly was one of the most active and well-networked immigrant and refugee resettlement organizations in the United States. However, with the current political shift under the president, Episcopal Migration Ministries and many more ministries just like it have had to cease operations, as both the presence of new incoming refugees and the funding sources to resettle them, plus those who are already here and in the resettlement process, have been erased, basically overnight. This is a heartbreaking and confusing reality for those who have been actively engaged in this ministry work, and it raises a lot of questions about how the church can live into its mission to welcome the stranger, to welcome Christ to all people who are fleeing sure and certain political violence and persecution. Jesus and his family know this refugee experience. Following his birth, we hear the story of the three wise men appearing to pay homage to the newborn king, an event we mark on January 6 each year as the Epiphany, the ending of the 12 days of Christmastide. As these wise men arrive, they travel to Herod, the king of the land, to seek out where to find the infant born, as noted by the appearance of the star. Herod is terrified of this news, and upon confirming the prophecies, directs the wise men to Bethlehem and asks for them to return to him and bring the good news of where this child king is. Of course, the wise men are warned in a vision to not return, and so take their leave without returning to Herod, and Herod, in his fear, proceeds to enact an ethnic cleansing by ordering the murder of all the Hebrew children under the age of 3. Joseph and Mary are made aware of this plan and flee to Egypt, a foreign land, with the child Jesus, becoming refugees of political violence, and they wait there until after Herod's passing before returning to their homelands, while still being forced to settle away from their preferred home due to Herod's son inheriting the throne. It is this story that has inspired the ministry of outreach to immigrants and refugees. For this work is the direct work of welcoming Christ into our lives. Immigrants and refugees are not a scourge on our society. They're not people to be feared. They're not hardened criminals, any more so than any other selected group of the population in our country is. They are our neighbors. Neighbors who've experienced fear unlike any that we can imagine, even as some of our own citizenry sees their anxiety growing by the day as they fear this administration's gaze churning towards persecuting their othered identity. Neighbors who had hope in a new life, a better life, a more fulfilling and safer life, one where they could experience the opportunity to have safety, to earn a living, to provide for their families, to ensure their children had access to a better opportunity than the ones that they had. A popular phrase of protest these past few years is "no human is illegal." As Christians, and especially as Episcopalians, we firmly must believe and practice that truth. For all humans are beloved children of God, and regardless of how they arrived at this country, they are our neighbors, whom we are called to love and protect. As soon as we begin to dehumanize them with hateful and divisive rhetoric, with labels that remove their humanity to make them a statistic, to generate fear, to signify their othered status, we are moving away from our call as Christians and giving into the spiritual forces of evil at work in the world today. Immigration reform is needed in our country. It starts with the ending of our xenophobic and racist policies that hunt down our neighbors for simply existing alongside us. It starts with acknowledging that in Christ and in our faith, the only borders that exist are those of man. And I use that term intentionally because this is all built upon a patriarchal, imperialist mindset. And when our neighbor asks us for help, to find a better life, to live in safety, to be here with us in community with us, we must say yes, no matter where they were born or how they have arrived in our neighborhood. The Episcopal Church calls on us to aid all refugees in the knowledge that Christ himself lived that same experience in his life.